Well, EJ, the Packers won and the Bears lost. How about we push some narratives today? How are you feeling?
Absolutely. We should push some narratives. Good ones, bad ones, ones in between.
No, it's going to be a fun show. I want to caution everybody in the comment section before we get into it today. We always kind of refrain from giving super hot takes on this show, generally because there's so much nuance when you're actually breaking down these teams. Like, you can kind of see the both sides of a lot of different arguments for things, right? Like, was this a generational performance by Jordan Love? That's going too far for us. I don't think it was. Was this an apocalyptically bad performance by Caleb? That's also going too far. I don't think it was. But at the same time, great team win by the Packers. Horrific team loss by the Bears. We're also going to talk about the Jets' first win, which was an equally and opposite terrible performance by the Bengals. And we're going to talk about some old head veteran backup quarterbacks that might be getting old yeller this offseason. I just want to set the stage here. People are going to find a reason to be mad when we're talking about NFC North rivals here. It's not that serious, A, for one, and B, like, if you just watch the tape, which you guys know, we do that on this show, you'll understand where we're coming from. But with that being said, before we get into the bloodshed, Neil, please roll the intro. Welcome to the Bootleg Football Podcast. I'm Brett Coleman. That's EJ Snyder. Lots to talk about today. So I think we'll start with our biggest feel-good story of the week, and that's the Jets getting the first win. Before we get into the stuff that kind of pissed me off about that game, which was largely on the Cincy side, EJ, shall we say some nice things about the Jets for the first time this season?
I think we should really focus on how the Jets ran their way back into a victory, and that, if there's a better way to honor an all-time center for the Jets, or one of the all-time centers for the Jets, because they've had some really good ones, that would be a way to do it. And it's what they needed to do. I'm going to go housekeeping notes before I say lots of nice things about the Jets, because we're both going to focus a lot on that fourth quarter. Because, again, going into that, really the second half. Going into the second half, Bengals are leading 24-13. It doesn't look very good for the Jets. They haven't been moving the ball very well, and the second half is a very different story. We'll talk about that a lot. Nuance. We talked about it at the top of the podcast. Rushing defense in this game was horrendous. And by horrendous, I mean like disaster film. When like safety experts show up at an oil plant and like show all the tanks blowing up and say, don't do this. If this guy hadn't have done that and they hadn't left that gate open, the truck, like, football coaches everywhere are going to play this tape for run defense, run fits, and say, don't ever do any of this. The Bengals gave up 7.92 yards per carry to the running backs, and the Jets gave up, not to be outdone, 7.95 yards to the running backs of the Bengals. So the effort and the fits on middle run plays, especially for the Jets, considering who their head coach is, were atrocious. I don't know what they're going to say about them in the film room. Luckily, they did win the game, but I have a feeling there's going to be some very unpleasant film study in those defensive film rooms, because there was some stuff, and I'm not talking about like, oh, hey, you got beat by a professional athlete. There's some like second day of high school ball, hey, so you go here and this is your gap stuff that didn't get done throughout the day. So all of the feel-good story about the Jets being able to run their way back into the game, that's Al Golden and his team. The Bengals running themselves out to 38 points and looking like they should have beat a very downtrodden Jets team was also like, hey, the easy button is we just hand it off and run between the tackles and we'll get 11 yards. Let's do it. So
actually, to be fair, it wasn't 11. In the second half, it was 12.9. It was even worse. So man, all-time bad defense.
I mean, it's like disaster film stuff. And the only other note that I have that really doesn't focus on what we want to talk about is how the Jets got back into this game is Jamar got targeted 18 times in this one. By far the highest of any wide receiver in week 8. The next closest was 12 targets for both of the New Orleans wide receivers, Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. That's above the Randy ratio. If you remember the Randy ratio, that was 40% of the passing game targeted at Randy Moss. That was Tice's idea to lift the Vikings in those days. 53% went to Chase this week for the Bengals. So forget the Randy ratio. We're upping it. I see your Randy ratio and I raise you. That is astounding. But yeah, let's get to this second half because fun story. I had to go to Buffalo Wild Wings, my old stomping grounds, before I built this studio and could watch 8 games in here and whatever else. Every Sunday I would go to Buffalo Wild Wings in the year that we were putting together the idea for this studio. And I ended up sitting next to a guy next table over, and we were sort of divvying up TVs. And he goes, "Well, I'm watching this one." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm a Jets fan." And I said, "Man, I am so sorry." This is the beginning of the game.
Did you buy him a beer or 3?
I just no. He was buying his own. He's experienced. And I just said, my condolences, right? And then it goes like it goes for the first half, and everybody's like. And then other people found out he was a Jets fan, and there was a Dolphins fan there and a Patriots fan in there. And they were like, "Sorry, man. Like, we know you're in the division. We don't fear you at all, but we're really sorry you have to put up with that." That was pretty much the vibe for the first half. And then a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. So the second half happens, and even through the third quarter, people were like, "Oh, look at that. They made a play or two. Oh, they let the Bengals score again. Sorry, man." And then they get to the fourth quarter, and it's like, wait, they're 2 scores and 2. They could do this. They start saying sort of sarcastically, like, "Don't give up yet. It's okay. They could do it." Completely jokingly, right? Because it's the Jets. Everybody is expecting collapse. And then it starts getting tight, and everybody in the bar starts getting into it. The Jets game. Like, are the Jets actually going to do it? Are they going to get their first win? And by the final, 4 minutes, everybody was turned around watching Jets and Bengals. It was hilarious.
Meanwhile, there's one Bengals fan in the corner just rocking back and forth slowly because he's seen this a million times.
No.
Watching this game, and keep in mind, I have had plenty of issues with Aaron Glenn's game management this year, especially in the London game, that end of half sequence. There's been game management issues. But for Zach Taylor, who's been the head coach of the Bengals for how many years now? 6?
He's not new at it.
Yeah. Not new at it, right? For him to be so thoroughly outcoached in terms of game management by Aaron Glenn in Aaron Glenn's 8th game ever, to the point where even just clock management, whether to go for 2 or not go for 2, listening to the math. I thought Aaron Glenn was great in that department. They were down 31-16 late in the third quarter. They were mounting a drive, just running their way back into it. Again, only down by, not only. They were down by 15. You don't think that they're going to throw their way back, or you don't think they're going to run their way back into it, but they're like, well, that's kind of our best button to press right now. So Brees is just ripping off carries. They get down there, they score, and he goes for 2 when they were originally down by 15. That is listening to the math, right? Because if you go for 2 right then and there, it kind of defines what you have to do in the fourth quarter, right? Either we're going to be down by 7 and we're going to be even, or we're going to be down by 9, in which case, okay, we have to score twice. But at least we know at the top of the fourth quarter what we have to do. So he goes for 2. Justin, just kind of does Justin stuff, breaks off, gets the 2-point conversion. Cool. So it's evened up. Bengals then go back down and score because Chase Brown was just running through them. Again, key point of the day. Run defense was awful. So now they're down by 14. Jets go back down the field. Brees scores on a beautiful, they call bash QB counter. And Justin let the ball go, and Brees hit the corner and did Brees stuff and scored. Tight roped it. He was a centimeter off the sideline, managed to score. So again, it was a 14-point game. Aaron Glenn goes for 2 again, which a lot of people were caught off guard by. But mathematically, that was the way you do it, right? Because now the odds of you basically the odds of converting 2 points versus missing extra points, like it's in favor of you going for 2 in that situation so that you could potentially only be down by 6 and win in regulation if you get one more possession. Worst case scenario, you're down by 8. It's still one possession, but you might as well do it then so that you could win in regulation. He listened to the math. He did it right. Justin, again, makes a crazy play. He's like falling over, throws the ball. They catch it right at the paint. 2-point conversion, right? And then Zach Taylor did Zach Taylor stuff. So the Bengals got the ball back. Throw. Immediate 3 and out. Took a 3rd down sack. Only burned a minute of clock. Got about 6.5 minutes, somewhere around there in the 4th quarter. Jets get the ball again. They're running. Justin hits a couple big balls, hit a big one to Arian Smith off play action. They burned 5 minutes of clock. The Jets did. Scored again, and all they had to do was kick the extra point. All of a sudden, they have the lead. Shit is what Bengals fans were thinking at this point, especially because they were on the other side of the 2-minute warning at this point. It's like a minute 54 left when they get the ball back. Both teams have 3 timeouts still. They both kept their timeouts at this point. So everybody's kind of doing the possession math of like how many, because everybody has timeouts, how many more possessions are we going to get in this game, right? So first play, when the Bengals get the ball back, first play, quick throw, gets like 2nd and 3, big run, gets him out to the 44-yard line. Chase Brown goes down at a minute 16 on the Bengals' own 44. They're almost at midfield, about 20 yards away from field goal position. Remember, they just have to kick a field goal, and they could say, see you guys later, we win. So they get to their own 44-yard line, minute 16 on the clock. They didn't run another play until there were 44 seconds left in the game. They were down, EJ. The Jets weren't calling timeout. They're like, why would we call timeout? You're not even in field goal range yet. We're just going to let this thing bleed. Because if you screw up on the next play, all of a sudden you just burned 30 extra seconds that you probably need. We didn't have to spend any timeouts. Like the Jets were in no rush here to get the ball back. So they were just kind of letting them bleed their own clock. To which I'm thinking, Zach, you need that time. You need that time to preserve ambiguity in play calling, because if you get to your own 44 at 116, you call timeout right then and there, you still have two timeouts to go, for one. And B, it means that the entire playbook is available to you. You can still run the ball against a team that couldn't stop you from running the ball. Instead, okay, we get down there. Eventually they get they took a shot down the field on first down, again with 44 seconds to go. Took a shot down the field, that's incomplete. All of a sudden the Jets are like, oh, there's blood in the water, let's go. Because the only thing that can hurt the Jets at that point is a shot down the field. So it's 2nd down, they call 0. Because again, the only thing that can hurt you is a shot down the field. So when you call 0 in that scenario, what you're doing is you're overloading the protection so that the ball has to come out quickly, and then we just rally and tackle. 0 is a very common call in that situation defensively, especially for Aaron Glenn. Just watch any Lions game last year. So and also it's great for run defense because you're just flooding the line of scrimmage with bodies. We're playing the run on the way to the quarterback. So they try to run into 0 on 2nd down after letting the clock bleed. Now it's 3rd and 9. Protection bust on 3rd and 9, throw it away. Now it's 4th and 9, pass broken up. All of a sudden the game's over and you have 2 timeouts. So the fact that they took their foot off the gas while still being 20 yards away from field goal range was inexcusable to me. Like you got a big play, you got almost to midfield. Take a timeout. Talk about the call. Like have a plan. But like to just let 30 seconds go as if we're saying like this is going to be the last possession of the game, we're going to walk off the field. You're not there yet, Zach. You have to get in field goal range and then take your foot off the gas and bleed it out. So it's just horrific game management by the Bengals. Excellent game management by Aaron Glenn. And the fact that Aaron Glenn, 8 games into his career as a head coach, is already managed the game better than Zach fucking Taylor, 6 years in, or however number of years that he's in. Like, what are we doing here? Like, the season's basically over now. Like, they had to win this game to have a shot to hold out until the other Joe got back. And now, like, what? Dude, the Ravens are only 2 games out of first place, and they have a soft schedule coming up. Like, they're gonna lap everybody. like this is why I don't like talking about this team, because every time I do, I get pissed off. But like, how do Bengals fans deal with this constantly? It's every game they do stuff like this, and it's just, do they care about winning, EJ?
I'm not particularly sure from their actions because, to your point, it is something every game. It is not the same, but it is similar. Like, it feels the same. And that point where, you get a nice gain, you're getting out towards midfield, you have all your options. To your point, you have your whole playbook and you've got timeouts. A lot of times in that situation, under 2 minutes, you got one timeout left, you got two timeouts left. Maybe you're going to try and save it for the field goal. We'll talk about a sort of rushed field goal later on today that was really interesting because I realized, oh yeah, they don't get a kicking ball in that situation.
Oh, if you're doing a fire drill, you don't get a K-ball.
Bingo.
How did I never realize that?
I realized that when Cairo Santos came up like 4 yards short because, well, it was about 2 yards short actually. But I was like, oh, well, he's coming back.
Was that why that happened?
Mm-hmm.
Son of a bitch. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, no, they scramble, put the ball down. You don't have timeout. They're not stopping the clock to switch a ball for you.
Yeah, now that you say it, it seems obvious, but I never put that together. Wow.
So you have everything you need as the Bengals. You've got pretty good distance. Field position looks good. You've got multiple timeouts. You got your playbook. You even have a sort of extra, Uno reverse card, which is, hey, the run is our most explosive play today. I mean, P. Ryan's score in the fourth quarter, or right before the fourth quarter, with like 2 minutes left in the third quarter, was a 30-plus yarder right up the middle. And they'd been doing it all day. That was not an aberration. So you literally have everything on the table. You could literally run draw. You could spread them out wide, run 4 deep posts, and run draw. And your chances of success as the Bengals, pretty darn good. It would have looked like a prescient play at that point. And if it doesn't work, if you get stopped for 5 or 6 yards, you got your timeouts, same thing. Huddle up, figure out what your plan is. You've still got another timeout to do whatever it is you want when you get in range. But the idea that you go from whatever it was, 116 to 44 without sort of a plan, without a timeout, without anything, I know you're trying to burn some time, like we can't score too quickly. Well, yeah, but you still have to score, you're down. So it was perplexing. I'm sure the Jets are thrilled, but if you're a Bengals fan and you're looking at this, and to the point we let off this mini part of the section with again, like, it's not even close to the first time. It's not even the first time in the last 3 weeks that we've sort of scratched our head and gone, what? Like, what? Okay. Like, all right. Yeah, it didn't work out for you again. You can only, well, I keep saying this and you keep saying this. You can only stack so many of those, but they keep stacking them like there's no tomorrow. And they don't seem to be overly concerned about it. We don't hear a lot. We certainly hear a lot about other coaches' seats being extremely hot for what I would call lesser coaching offenses.
Winning franchises start at the top, right? And I don't think it's a coincidence that you look what Carly Arsay Gordon's been the owner of the Colts for what, like 3 months? They're immediately the best team in the league, right? The operation seems super buttoned up. The communication inside the building's been great. And yes, it helps that all of a sudden they got better quarterback play, but it just feels like the entire ship is run super tight now, and that's paying off on the field. And you look at the teams with not great ownership situations, and you see consistently the result that plays out on the field. So I feel bad, honestly, for Bengals fans. I feel great for Jets fans. Like, this is awesome for them. By God, they needed it. I feel awesome for Justin Fields, considering, speaking of not great ownership situations.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you sure you're not talking about the Jets? Because Justin came out
if we have to choose,
motivated.
though.
No, that's like, that's like those would you rather jokes. I don't want to choose either ownership situation, but Justin came out and looked like a completely different player than he has for weeks. And that's not an overstatement. He still operated in the same way. It was still Justin. He was still taking too long to go through his reads. He is still extremely see it, throw it. But when he saw it, he was drilling it, right? He was throwing it real hard and on target. And, that'll work against a defense that isn't playing pretty well. And he played very well within those confines and very differently than he has for weeks and weeks. So I think he was motivated by the owner's comments. And, you were like, I feel good for Jets fans. I'm like, I was talking to that guy a bunch, and I don't feel great about it because they're fully aware that, again, until things change in a more sort of systemic way, that this isn't going to be the situation for the Jets every week or even close to it. So it was a nice reprieve. It was a nice relief. Get that pressure off. We're not going to go winless. Start moving in a positive direction maybe, but they do realize that the issues run a lot deeper with the Jets and that those are going to carry over much like they are with the Bengals.
I will say this game, it put a little bit of doubt in my heart about something that I didn't expect to have doubt in my heart about. And that's the trading Brees discussion. Because, oh my God, like when he's right, he is so good. Like some of the moves he was putting on people, like when he is fully healthy, his jump cuts, he's just like teleporting. And like when he hits the corner, he's got so much juice. Like we know he catches the ball well. Seems like
he throws the ball well.
Throws the ball well too. I look at some of the pieces they have in that young offensive core because we know Brees is really good. Like Mason Taylor, shout out Mason Taylor, not just for everything he does as a receiver, but like as a run blocker, a couple of those big runs from Brees were behind Mason Taylor. Like he's a piece you can build around. Garrett is Garrett. We love some of the young offensive linemen they have. Like they shouldn't be this bad. And so I'm almost like reluctant to break up the band because I see the potential in them. But at the same time, after that game from Brees, like, is he ever going to have a higher price than he does right now? Like, what could we get for a team that's going to go on a run, but needs a run? Like Kansas City. I don't know if Kansas City would do it, but let's just use Kansas City, who like desperately needs running back help. You could probably get a pretty decent asset from KC right now. So I struggle with it because I know how good he is, but I also know because he's good, they would get something significant. I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. He's a great player. If they wanted to shop him to the Bears, which, look, the Bears aren't biting for that right now. They should be, but they're not going to. Look, it would make the team that I like a whole lot better, but there is that piece. If Brees Hall doesn't want to be traded, if he wants to hang around and try and resurrect the Jets, God bless him. Like, let him try it. I don't think that's his best professional prospect, seeing how that team's been operated for the past, gestures at forever. But, if he wants it, sure. If he wants to stay there and be loyal and rebuild the team that drafted him, good on him because he's certainly got a lot of talent, can help them out.
One quick break, then we'll get right back to the show, I promise. I don't really know how else to say this, so I'm just going to come out with it. I think I'm becoming a Henley guy this season. I've never actually been a Henley guy before, mainly because I've never actually looked good in Henleys before, but I just got a couple from True Classics, which happens to be sponsoring today's show, and it's the first time I've actually felt like I pulled off a Henley. True Classics' entire business model is just making clothes that are cut to look good on normal guys. You don't have to be an Adonis to feel confident in what you wear. Lord knows I'm not. All their pieces fit where and how they should on normal bodies. The fabrics feel good and they don't break the bank. Beyond these Henleys, I also got joggers, I got polos, I got crew necks, I even picked up a hoodie. Like I just had a whole bunch of holes in my wardrobe because I have lost a little bit of weight over the last year. I've lost about 20 pounds, but I still got, 25 to go. But, in this kind of halfway point in my weight loss journey, I had to pick up a bunch of new clothes, and I got a shit ton of them from True Classics, and they all look and feel pretty good. So if you yourself are in need of some new clothes as well, or maybe somebody on your list that you're shopping for this holiday season, go check out the entire catalog over on trueclassics.com/bootleg. Again, that is trueclassics.com/bootleg. I'm sure if you check it out, you're going to find something you like. And once again, I want to thank True Classics for sponsoring today's show. With that, let's get back to it. Next game on the docket, Green Bay. Again, a lot of nuance when we're breaking this game down. And I will just start with my thesis statement, and then EJ, I'll let you say your piece after that. I think Jordan Love is a very, very good quarterback. I think he is easily top third in the NFL. So that would be what, top 11, 10 and a half, top 10 and a half in the NFL. You could argue he is top 8. I wouldn't besmirch you for doing that. I think he is really, really good. I have seen what absolute supernova Jordan Love looks like, and he's had a lot worse stat lines than what he had this week. This to me was the opposite. It wasn't supernova Jordan Love. It was Jordan Love doing what Jordan Love has to do, but he ended up with a crazy stat line. This was, I think, was a better team offensive performance than it was a Jordan Love performance. And I feel like that should be praise on the Packers side. B, my stronger emotional reaction was to the Steelers defense, because this unit being this expensive and also this bad should not happen. Like, no team that is spending this much on defense should get shredded this much. But the fact that you have a pass rush that doesn't have time to get home because Love's getting the ball out too quickly, and their DBs are so bad in man coverage that they can't cover for 2.5 seconds, like, it just feels like a recipe for disaster every single week. And if I was a Steelers fan, I wouldn't know where to go from here, because we spent all this money on defense. We can't stop anybody. Aaron's doing his best. Like, he really is, but you want to put up 35 every week? It's not tenable. And this season is not going how I expected it would for Pittsburgh as far as what their actual issues are. Like, I thought their issues would be different than what their issues are, but it still feels we're in the same place where it's like, what was all this for, right?
Yeah, Green Bay went in and did what they needed to do against a lesser team, and they earned a very deserved victory. I'll just start with that. Jordan Love absolutely carved up the Steelers. Was it prime time Jordan Love? It really wasn't. The stat line looked that way, but it was, I would say, good, solid, decisive Jordan Love. But in terms of like seeing a lot of sort of Jordan Love is a superhero takes that I think take it a little bit too far. So we're going to start with the Steelers side because some nuances needed here. And yes, we talked about this in the summer preview series. The way the Steelers were built was for one last ride with high-priced talent, and specifically on the defensive side of the ball. That is where they were putting their stake in the ground. Right now, the offense is passable. It can definitely win some games, and on better weeks, they can overwhelm lesser opponents. But they're the more dominant of the two units, and dominant is a word I would hesitate to use on either side of the ball. We really expected the performance on the defensive side, and it has not been there. So the Steelers' defense has allowed 700-plus yards passing over the past 2 games, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's not what you're paying for. And John Ledyard put up, like, Jordan Love had a 2.49 second time to throw. Everybody's going to get excited about the pass rush all week because no sacks. But how are you going to get sacks when you got Jordan Love throwing the ball extremely quickly to wide open first targets about 80% of the time? This was not a go through your progression, scramble around, make something happen out of structure. This was a get the snap, look at the guy, he's open, hit him with an accurate pass. And Jordan
other than that one Tucker Kraft miracle ball.
We'll talk about that one. But on balance, that was what Jordan did, and that was why the very expensive and, well-stocked pass rush, and I say expensive, but I mean expensive not only in salary, but also in draft compensation, right? It's not like they have only paid players and brought them in free agency. They have spent a lot of picks on that defensive front, and it's not getting home right now, and the coverage is letting it down. And the result of that is, Jordan Love in the second half versus the Steelers. 100% adjusted completion rate, 214 passing yards, much of that through yak, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and a 148.7 rating. So what everybody really wanted to concentrate on with Jordan is the 20 straight completions, because he ties a record for the Packers. And look, I'm going to say this right at the top. 20 straight completions at any level of football is really good team football. You need to do a lot of things right as a team. Pass protect, quarterbacks got to make the right decision, receivers got to run the right route, got to catch the ball, got to beat the defender. You got to do all that every play a bunch of times in a row. It's very hard to do. It is an impressive feat. Has to be a team effort, for sure. But in order to accomplish this, Love got a lot of help. Everybody's saying Love did this. Love got 20 completions. Love got a lot of help along the way, and this is where film comes in. So I watched all 20 completions straight, just clipped, like 1 through 20. The first place he got the help was from his coach, LaFleur. 11 of the first 13 throws in the 20 stretch were 6 yards or less. Most of them, a lot of them, were behind the line of scrimmage or within like 0 to -3 yards. Many of those throws. That's extension of the run game stuff. Was it executed well? Absolutely. Love got it out. He was snappy. He was accurate. We've talked about how important placement is on those throws so your guys can catch it well, go get yak. He did all that. Like, this was not him spraying the ball around and being saved by his running backs. Not at all. But this is extension of run game stuff. Again, 11 of the first 13, 6 yards or less. 15 of the 20 were 6 yards or less. There were 5 throws in here that were, I'll just say, a higher degree of difficulty. He also got help from the Steelers. See above. Lack of defense. They played terribly. We don't need to talk about that anymore. We've talked about it enough. And from his receivers, Watson coming back to this team is huge because he is physical at the catch point. He is aggressive. He comes back and wins it. In fact, one of the 2 throws in the first 13, that was one of the harder ones. One of the longer ones was Watson coming back to the sideline. And the way he came back aggressively with a J-cut helped that ball be won for the Packers. If he had been passive about that ball, that very well could have been an incompletion. That was a lot of help from Watson on a good throw from Love, but it was really about Watson completing that catch. And, he got a little bit of help from the officials. I'm not saying they propped this up, but everybody's talking about what a great adjustment from the throw you talked about, the heave going backwards to Tucker Kraft. Everybody's like, what a great adjustment to the ball. Well, yes and no. Yes, Tucker Kraft saw it. He also gave the DB a good double-handed shove that was not slight. Did it get called? It absolutely did not get called. Right as he makes his adjustment, he chucked the defensive back, caught the can of corn, turned around, got a lot of yards after the catch, and he had a tremendous game. I'm not trying to take anything away from Tucker Kraft because if you do it and it doesn't get called, sorry, folks, it's legal. When you break it down, was it some amazing cut where he dumped the defensive back? No, he grabbed him and shoved him away. Like, is that legal? No, it's OPI. Did it get called? It did not. So
which means it's legal.
Luck. Yeah, exactly. A little bit of luck. A lot of help from his coach. A lot of help from his other receivers who did a very good job winning balls down the field on those 5 that weren't super short. And this isn't to take anything away from Jordan Love. The other balls he threw, the short ones, were really well thrown. It's not super easy to throw screens, and he threw a bunch of them in a row. His guys came through with a ton of yak. They kept drives going, and it ends up in Packers record book. That's all anybody will ever care about. But if you go back and watch 1 through 20, about 5 throws in here that were, down the field, and he got help, a bunch of help from his receivers on 3 of them. The sideline route to Watson, the chuck to Kraft, and the deep chuck to Watson where I don't know if that was a great throw. Like, he got it there and he gave his guy a chance, but Watson won that ball and the defensive back didn't get quite enough depth. Like, I'll just call that neutral for both sides. Like, go take the chance. Like, stress the pass defense. Pass defense didn't make a play. Packers benefit, end up with the ball at the 6-yard line. So it's a really good stretch of football, but some of the heights I've seen this morning about, oh my God, Jordan Love is a cyborg. I'm like, no.
Well, it's more so I've seen cyborg Jordan Love games, and I feel like it almost like, when guys get voted to the Pro Bowl, like probably a year or 2 after they should have gone to the Pro Bowl, and it just feels like a makeup. Like, this feels like a lot of the praise that has been due to Jordan Love in games where the Packers have lost, or in games where they were in just kind of like scrappy dogfights where he's the only reason they even were close to winning, or the only reason they won. But his stat line doesn't look as good. I feel like all this praise is just like makeup praise for those games that he should have been praised for. So it's one of those where it's like, we watch him. Do you guys? Yeah. I mean, Packers fans obviously do, but it feels like sometimes when people talk about Jordan Love, it's like, you're correct for the wrong reasons and you're wrong for the correct reasons. He's a polarizing quarterback like that. Cause I don't know. I don't know how to get out of this one.
No, he can make outstanding downfield throws. And he does, I would say, more often than not. He is a very good downfield thrower. Last night wasn't really a showcase mostly for that. Like, he had a couple. And again, the one that I think was probably the nicest ball in that 20-run streak is the 19th, which was a deep sideline out to Dobbs. That was a really nice, great ball. Gorgeous, on time, like on target, right where his receiver needed it to be able to make a play on it, get his feet in. You know, his receiver didn't have to be a superhero. He delivered it right where it needed to be. That's a difficult throw. It's also a deep throw, right? It's not necessarily so deep down the sideline, but it is deep and out. So you got to do the triangle. Like, that throw covered some distance, and it was gorgeous. And that, I think, is far more representative of what he is capable of. But that was literally one throw out of the 20.
You know, last night, it kind of made me go down a rabbit hole because, to your point, a lot of those throws were not contested, right? Either DBs were just getting cooked immediately, and so receivers were making uncontested catches, and keep in mind, the Steelers played the 6th most man coverage of the week, and it did not help them at all. Again, Love was getting the ball out in under 2.5 seconds, which, to get the ball out in under 2.5 seconds and have a completion percentage that high against man coverage, that just means your DBs are losing instantly, which they were. If you watched it on tape, they weren't very good. And I think, or rather, not I think, I know that after seeing that game, I did a little bit of a rabbit hole thing where I was like, what's like the average number of contested targets that Packers receivers have every week? And believe it or not, this was the second most contested targets that this receiving group has had of the entire season. The only game that was higher than this was the Dallas game, when they, scored like 40 points or whatever it was. And even that, again, we're talking 5 contested targets on 37, 39 attempts. It's a very, very low contested target rate in this offense because LaFleur is so good at scheming up space for guys, and the ball's out so quickly that oftentimes they just have 5 yards of area around them. And that then led me even further down that rabbit hole where I was like, okay, what about for the entire season? There's only 30 contested targets for this offense the entire year. That's the 5th fewest in the NFL. Detroit's the lowest amount at 18, which makes sense because it's Detroit. Like, those guys just get everybody open at will. But like, nobody's ever contested in this offense. And that's going to sound like I'm saying, oh, it's Jordan Love playing on easy mode. That's not the point. The point is Matt LaFleur can coach. No matter what Packers fans think of him, every time I see in my mentions they want him fired every single week when they're winning by like 14 points. Like, he can coach. Nobody's ever covered in this offense. It's crazy how good he is.
No, I have a ton of respect for Matt LaFleur, and of course he's the Packers coach, and I have to watch his brilliance, against, from a team that my team plays against twice a year, and just be frustrated that he is as good as he is, and he is a great schemer. I see Packers fans, decry his name on the regular, and I'm like, really? You have no idea. Like, he is very, very good, and the chances that your coaching quality would decline if you did depose him in your little fit of rage are really good. Like, you have almost nowhere to go but down.
Yeah, you guys try rooting for a Zach Taylor coach team and tell me what bad coaching is.
Yeah.
Speaking of Jordan Love, by the way, brings us to this week's shot of the week. Our lovely patrons tried their best to make me do a shot to Emmanuel Forbes, and they failed.
Oh, I am disappointed. I don't often say that about our patrons. In fact, I never say that about our patrons. But come on, you had one job.
He was at 31% of the vote. Buda Baker nailing Jordan Love won with 43% of the vote. 43% of the vote, for our Week 7 bootleg shot of the week. So, Buda, cheers to you. Jordan Love did fumble on that play, by the way, but he got it back. Green Bay obviously
of course
win the game.
Why wouldn't he?
It's almost like people couldn't tell you're a Bears fan, EJ.
I know.
The way you
so
talk
weird.
about this team.
Come on, you watch the fumble bounce directly back to the quarterback after he gets absolutely obliterated, and you're like, yeah, sure, of course. I'm used to it. Yeah, it's the way it happens. But cheers to Buda. Cheers to Emmanuel Forbes. Hey, man, you tried.
It was a good hit. I'll give it to him. Like full on, like WWE, flip him over the shoulder. Good for him.
I don't know that he's going to get another opportunity, maybe ever. So that was his one chance, and it was worthy.
Nominees for this week's Shot of the Week. By the way, this is available on a public poll on the Patreon. You don't have to be a patron to vote for it, but we appreciate it if you become one, especially because you get access to bonus episodes every single week, where this week's bonus episode, we're going to be talking about the best rookies so far, halfway through the season. That public poll is linked on our Patreon, which is linked down in the description below. Do we have a QR code? Maybe I should throw a QR code on screen.
Yeah, we're throwing a QR code on screen. We want to make it as easy as possible.
So, Shot of the Week nominees for this week. First one, shout out to my fellow Brett. Brett Toth, might be Toth.
I think it's
completely demolishing Drew Phillips, our first of 2 offensive line highlights for the week. Again, video is available on the Patreon because we don't want to get sued. Anthony Nelson. I really felt bad for Spencer Rattler on this one on his pick 6. Rattler tried to make the tackle and it just looked like big brother shoving little brother to the ground. I honestly felt bad for him, but hell of a hit by Nelson. Quinn Miners might be the offensive highlight of the year. Nominee number 3, dispensing not 1, but 2 defenders. Like one of the best run blocking reps, like literally I have seen in a long, long time. Go to the Patreon, watch the video just for this. Like it's disgusting. Quinn Miners, one of the best guards in the NFL. And then Henry To'o, nominee number 4, smashing Christian McCaffrey in a game where the Texans won that I, honest to God, did not think they were going to win. And they actually controlled it from start to finish. It was kind of a weird feeling. I'm not used to that, EJ. But there's your 4 nominees. Again, go vote for it in the public poll on the Patreon. Today's show is brought to you by Chubbies, who conveniently recently got an NFL license, so now they can make team apparel like the Seahawks polo that I have on right now. Beyond these performance polos, they also have swim trunks and mesh shorts for every single team and every single fan base. Or even if you're not a 49ers fan, but you just happen to really, really like George Kittle, they also have a whole line of apparel just with George. These are great for tailgates or pool parties or golfing or stuff that you're not really going to do this time of year anyway, but still, eventually, it's going to get warm again. So if you just want to future-proof your wardrobe, or maybe you want to shop for another NFL fan in your life for this holiday season, go check out the catalog over at Chubbies. And if you go to chubbyshorts.com/bootleg, you get a $10 discount on your order as well. Again, chubbyshorts.com/bootleg. Check out the catalog, get that $10 discount, and we thank you, Chubbies, once again for sponsoring the show. With that, let's get back to it. That brings us to our third topic of the day. How do I say this nicely?
I don't know. Can you?
I don't think... I'm trying not to overreact. That's the thing. It's like I'm physically restraining myself from overreacting because the tape wasn't as bad as I expected it to be when I went back and did my rewatch. It really wasn't. But at the same time, the way that this team snatches defeat from the jaws of victory will never not blow my mind. To have this game, this was close. It was like a 3-point game late in the game until it just wasn't immediately. And I was like, that again, it's a different coach. Different quarterback, different everything, and yet I feel like I've watched that specific Bears loss 30 times in the last 5 years.
Yep.
And it's just so demoralizing. I almost I have obviously an emotional reaction to it, but at the same time I feel this profound numbness and I don't know where to go from here.
Yeah, it's a very familiar ache about midway through the third quarter where you go, oh, they're going to do it again, aren't they?
You can feel it coming.
No, you could.
It's like a storm on the horizon. The air changes.
Yep. Oh. No, I fully agree. And look, the Bears, I appreciate you trying not to overreact because a lot of folks who are Bears fans do want to overreact about a good many things. And, that's their right. They have certainly more than earned it, but the Bears are still a learning team under this coaching staff, and they are going to show inconsistency because of it. And we wish that progress was linear. We wish that every performance stacked on every other performance and they never make the same mistake twice. Well, sorry they did this week. They backslid into some old bad habits from earlier this year. I'm not even going to go back to previous coaching staffs. Earlier this year, they were doing the same thing. They were poor against the run after one of their very best weeks against the run when Kyler Gordon came back. Kyler Gordon makes such a huge difference for this team versus the run. When he is out, they just don't play the run as well, period. End of story. Another old habit that caught them up, especially in this game, but not just this game, penalties. 11 for 79 yards. It is just not good enough, and it killed a lot of drives and momentum. And to your point, when you go back and watch the film's not bad. In fact, if you just watch the first drive, if you watch 11 of the first plays in a row on script, they look unstoppable. Like, they were so sharp going down the field. Run, pass, both. Everything. On time, within the confines of the offense, chewing up yardage. They get right down to the 5. So, and then, oh, bummer. We tried a couple of inside runs. We'll talk about that. But this is a side note. This isn't like conspiracy theory or anything else. I just find it fascinating. You know that every week I've got at least 1 or 2 rabbit holes just based on numbers. And this one is fascinating. This comes from Scott Bear. Per NFLpenalties.com, the Bears have been flagged 64 times for 533 yards. That is the second highest per game penalty count in the league. Bears opponents, now this is a wide range of teams, different conferences all the way across the country, have been flagged 36 times for 254 yards, the second lowest per game count in the league. So second highest, second lowest, no matter who they play. It's not, when they play the Packers, they don't get calls, or when they play this team, they don't get calls, or when they play the AFC, they don't get calls. It's like literally all Bears opponents, second fewest, Bears second most throughout the season. To me, that means they're a sloppy team because a lot of those are things that they can control that aren't really subjective calls, like pre-snap movement. Pre-snap movement destroys this team. Again, that first drive, the reason it didn't work, they get down, they run a couple of times, they get nailed for pre-snap movement. It's 3rd and 6, pass play bombs out, and a 13-play drive turns into a field goal after all that great execution for the first 10, 11 plays. So the offense made plays, but that rhythm wasn't there. It was elusive because of penalties, because of misses, and because of a drop-off in run success. And this is the one that really bugs me. Now, Chicago, to their credit, did not try to run inside. They knew that they're not an inside running team. So last week, week 7, Chicago tried 10 inside runs. They got 4.5 yards per. Not great, but okay. Against the Ravens, they only tried 4, but they only got 3.5 yards per. So they didn't try it, and it wasn't successful. What's the difference? The difference is Baltimore knew that Chicago was an outside run team. And they were like,
dude,
nope.
Those linebackers were flying to the edges. Like, they didn't even try to stay inside.
Nope. Roquan, Kyle Hamilton, who is Baltimore's version of Kyler Gordon when he is in, they are much more dynamic on defense. And Nate Wiggins, shout out to Nate Wiggins, who is having a very nice sophomore season, slammed the door on those outside runs, and that was that. So, again, in week 7, Chicago ran outside 18 times and got 6.94 per, almost 7 yards per outside run. Versus Baltimore, they ran outside 11 times and got 2.45 per carry, 4.5 yards less than the week before. That's not sustainable. And the problem with Chicago's run game is they're really good at the outside run. And just like any team that we talk about with their first punch, right? If you're playing the Bills, you got to stop James Cook. If you're playing the Bears and you stop the outside run, they don't have a lot of pivots in terms of the run game. Then you're turning them one-dimensional into the pass game, and they weren't good enough there either with a few misses. Like, overall, what happens is you just get that grinding feeling of, look, you're completing plays. I know people want to get on Caleb. I'll talk about that in a second. I want your thoughts on the sort of overall efficiency aspects of this game and how it played out as you watched it. Because, again, the feeling of watching it and then going back and watching it this morning were two very different things.
Watching this run game on tape, there were two things that stuck out to me, which is they didn't do it enough early and they didn't do it well enough late, right? Only a 33% run rate in the first half, especially on early downs, which is 20% off of where Ben Johnson usually likes to have it at, which is plus or minus 5% of 50. It's a very heavy run game oriented team early on in games. And they just didn't do it a whole lot. And then when they tried to do it in the second half, to your point, the linebackers didn't care about anything from the B gap or in. They just let Travis Jones and John Jenkins handle that because they knew that they probably had the size and strength advantage inside. So they were flying to the edges, just completely selling out against, toss plays and outside zone. And it worked, right? And part of it was because, okay, running backs aren't very good in Chicago, in my opinion. Part of it was because Ben Johnson maybe, I want to be careful how I word this, he hasn't developed the schematic counterpunch yet when teams sell out against outside zone. This was also a criticism that he had in Detroit where it was outside zone, outside zone, outside zone. And whenever that didn't work, as rare as that was, whenever outside zone didn't work for them, they never really had a schematic counterpunch to hit you back with. We're starting to see that tendency in Chicago. But really, to me, the larger issue is the running back talent issue for this team. I like Kyle Monangai as a player. I really do. He's not a starting caliber running back to me. He is the change-up kind of guy. And DeAndre Swift, as explosive as he is when he's hitting stuff to the perimeter, when teams sell out against that, again, you can't really do anything else with him. And there was a particular run that happened. It was the play before Caleb's interception, which, by the way, bad interception. He was way late on the ball, misplaced it. That was all Caleb. I'm not making excuses on that one. Horseshit throw. The play before that, it was a run to get him, kind of get him a little bit of room off their own end zone. And it was with Monangai. And Taven Bryan, who they just called up from the practice squad, basically took the play side guard and then just went outside and put the play side guard into Monangai's eye line. And there is an element of creativity that a running back has to have where if something isn't going exactly as it's blocked, you have to be able to kind of just make something out of it, right? And this is why I always tell young running backs, when I get DMs from high school running backs or, the odd occasion I'll have a chance to talk to a young running back at an all-star game. And, we get talking about, okay, who should they watch? I tell them Arian Foster. Right? Arian Foster is my answer every single time because he always had a creative answer when something wasn't getting blocked right. And Monangai, again, when the guard crosses his eye line, his first instinct was, I'm going to cut it back inside, right into where Roquan Smith was waiting. But that's what Taven Bryan wanted, right? Taven Bryan was like, I'm just going to put this flash of jersey color in front of him. I'm going to make him go where I want. And normally on outside zone, you're supposed to press and then cut. But if they cross your eye line with it, you have to change where you're pressing, right? You have to press inside, then bounce out. Because if you press inside, that's going to get Taven to jump back inside. And then it makes it easier on your play side guard. So the fact he didn't have any sort of creative solutions, a la Arian Foster, Bijan Robinson, all these, even Jahmyr Gibbs, hyper creative running backs, if it's not blocked perfectly for him, you can bait him into cutting directly into a free defender when he really should be, again, problem solving as a running back and help out his offensive lineman. If he's giving you the inside to press inside. And he had 10 yards of room to the outside. Instead, he got 2 yards on it, and then Caleb was still backed up the next play, and he threw that really shitty interception. So, that's the kind of play that made me think, God, they could really use Breece Hall. Because Breece would have bounced that bitch immediately and got 15 yards. And I'm like, oh, if they just had a running back that could hit that, and you could call more than just crack toss with him like DeAndre Swift. It's just running back is not as much of a fungible position as people think because so many run plays don't get blocked perfectly, but the best running backs still get the most out of them because they know how to be creative. If you don't have a creative running back, it almost doesn't matter how good your offensive line is. You're only going to get the 4 yards that's blocked for you. And I feel like that's what Chicago's experiencing right now.
I don't disagree with you. And the offense would be better in multiple ways and probably greater than the sum of its parts with a better running back because of who Ben Johnson is, because of his reliance on the run game. Everybody loves the creative pass game. Everybody loves the trick plays. Ben Johnson, at his core, his offensive philosophy, his foundation is the run game. Yes, mostly outside zone, but he has other stuff as well. But if the run game doesn't work for Ben, none of that other cool stuff gets to happen. And it happens less often in Chicago because DeAndre Swift is not very good in tight spaces. He needs a lot of space, typically outside. He's decent in the passing game there as well for the same reasons. And Monongai is not the foil, for lack of a better term, the other running back that Ben Johnson has always had in Jamal Williams or David Montgomery, the hammer on the inside, who will always get you 3 or 4 yards, even if it was only blocked for 1. And they're just lacking like half of the primary archetype and all of the backup archetype. And you end up with, a third of your regular run game working and therefore your offense being a bit hobbled. You talked about overreaction early on, and I want to talk about how Caleb actually played because it felt like he played one way. I watched the game back this morning, and he actually played a different way. And a lot of this is about expectation versus perception. So again, he started off incredibly sharp in the way that everybody wants him to be within the offense. Everybody loves the, Caleb ad-lib plays 3.5 seconds on where he rips it down the field. That is a skill set. You don't want to take it away from him, but everybody's like, he needs to play within the offense. That first drive, he played within the offense beautifully. And throughout the rest of the game, honestly, he played within the offense pretty darn well. Looked sharp and in the flow. Now, these are stats for week 8. Again, Monday Night Football, yet to be played. And we're talking about 24, 25 quarterbacks here qualify because of buys. And again, no Monday Night Football. He ended up 3rd in yards with 285, tied for 5th in first downs with one Daniel Jones, who we've just lauded his efficiency all year long. He tied for 6th in the lowest pressure to sack percentage. He's always pretty good in that category because of his mobility and his ability to get out of what looks to be sure pressures. He was 11th in average depth of target. He was 12th in adjusted completion percentage, which again is right in the middle of that pack of 24, 25 qualifying quarterbacks. 76.5% adjusted completion percentage. Pretty good. He was 13 in yards per attempt at 7.5. That is not a bad week from your quarterback, folks. You're talking about 3rd, 5th, 6th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. Like, those are all top half numbers. Like, it's not a bad week. Was it great? No. The interception was garbage. If you believe that top quarterbacks don't throw garbage interceptions, they do. Some of them get away with them. Some of them don't. But everybody heaps on Caleb every week like he is some bottom third of the league, scraping along, anchor on the offense. And when you look at how he actually played, both within the game, on film, and in stats compared to all of his peers, that is a decent, above average week from your quarterback. You can win with that. Now, did the Bears win? No. They shot themselves in the foot multiple times. Their situational football was not tremendous, and their run game sucked. And their defense couldn't stop the run, and look, that's all the Ravens needed. On the flip side, good news for Ravens fans. Tyler Huntley played really well against a Chicago secondary that's missing, 4 of its top 6 corners. Again, the Ravens didn't go, we want to play the Bears this week because they're really injured. They came up against the Bears this week in the schedule. Most of the secondaries on, IR or in the tub. And that's not their fault, but Huntley, made hay against it. He was efficient. He made timely plays when he had to. He ended up with the 8th best NFL passer rating on the day, 116.9. He did enough, and that run game carried him. So if the roles are reversed and Tyler Huntley was on the Bears and didn't have a run game and played his efficient, but in terms of stats, lower ball game, and Caleb played his game, but had the Ravens running game and defense, does the result end up differently? Sure it does. That's why football is a team game. It's complementary, but every week I see Bears fans like hue and cry. I saw, Ben Solak just back from parental leave, right? People like, where's your panic meter on Caleb after the Ravens game? And he's like, honestly, not very high. And it just seems like we need sort of objective outside observers to go, This is pretty good quarterback play. Is it great? No, it is not. Is there room for improvement? Absolutely. Are there still troublesome misses? Yes. Was the interception horseshit? Yes. That was Caleb's fault. That was not a tip ball. That was not anything else. He didn't see it. It was a bad throw. Like, bad throw. But is this terrible quarterback play that you like can't win with? No, we're going to talk about that in a second. Caleb is absolutely not that.
I just think the thing that works against Caleb is the comparison every single week to Drake May. And it's
100%.
partly brought on by Ryan Poles himself because of the Drake May non-evaluation.
Yep.
Right. Which is on him. Like it's really bad if you're only locked in on one guy from the start. Even if you would have ended up in the same place in the end anyway, like you should never just lock in on one guy. And you definitely shouldn't, for a quarterback who is as good as Drake May in college, you definitely shouldn't be laughing at his tape because he was pretty fucking good in college. So it's like, I don't know what you're looking at, man. And we're seeing Drake succeed so much now that it just feels like there's this building drumbeat every single week of like, the Bears messed up. They let New England get the better guy. I don't think that's fair to Caleb. I also don't think it's fair to Drake. How people are immediately putting like him in the top 5. You know, he's the 5th horseman of the apocalypse now, along with Mahomes and Allen, Lamar, Burrow. And it's like, okay, let's let him be a young developing quarterback for a minute. We don't have to put the top 5 expectations on him. Like the Patriots are a fun story. Let them be a fun story, please. But it's also bad for Caleb because he's getting repeatedly compared to Drake every single week. So it's like, no matter what he does, it's probably not going to be what Drake is doing right now. So he can't win. So it's unfortunate all around. I'm happy the Patriots got a young quarterback that they can root for. Lord knows you can only be down in the dumps for 5 years out of 25 before it really starts to grate on you. So good for them. And I think Caleb's fine overall. I really do.
Yeah, I would agree. And the Tyler Huntley segue is pretty good because we're going to move into talking about backup quarterbacks that, for the most part, didn't give their teams a chance this week. And Tyler Huntley did give the Ravens a chance. In fact, he gave them a win. But for years, NFL wisdom has said you're better off with an experienced veteran backup quarterback because it'll help your young starter prepare for game situations. I agree with that part. If the young starter goes down with injury, the veteran will be able to pilot your ship for a few games and probably keep it afloat. We're going to talk about that. I think the first one, again, is true, and I'm going to give you a solution for a way to solve that that doesn't mean carrying a possibly past their prime veteran starter on your roster. But the second one, I'm not so sure it's as true as it has been in the past, and we're going to talk about the 3 times we saw it this week, and that is Carson Wentz, Andy Dalton, and Kirk Cousins. Now, some people might say, why aren't you talking about Joe Flacco? Joe Flacco's a little bit different. Like, Joe Flacco was poached to be a starter in the absence of Burrow. He's had a couple of weeks with his team as well. Wentz has his 2, but Andy Dalton was fresh in his role, and Cousins was fresh in his. Before we get too deep into it, yes, the news came out right before we started recording this that Carson Wentz is undergoing season-ending shoulder surgery. He was dead meat halfway through that game. He was wearing a more restrictive shoulder brace than he was the week before. He got slammed on it. He was in obvious pain. I and many other people thought he was out of the game at that point. Like 2 minutes later, they show him yucking it up with the coach on the sideline like, haha, no problem. And I was like, wait a minute. It was already hurt. He was in obvious pain. What are you doing him throwing him back out there? Because you can't guarantee that he's not going to get tackled on that shoulder again. Regardless, looked like that was enough damage. He's getting shut down. His shoulder probably looks like tuna fish at this point. Not great in terms of how the Vikings manage that in general. So put a big asterisk next to Carson Wentz in all the numbers I'm going to give you. But Dalton and Cousins, I think, are, again, more fair evaluations for what we're actually seeing. So we're going to go down a lot of the same categories I just gave you for Caleb Williams. Again, this is out of 25 eligible starters because of buys and no Monday Night Football being played yet. So yards, Wentz was 23rd, Dalton was 18th, and Cousins was 19th. We all know yards can lie. First downs, Wentz 19th, Dalton tied for 12th, and Cousins 24th, tied for last. Yards per attempt, Wentz 23rd, Dalton 14th, Cousins 22nd. Average depth of target, Wentz 20th, Dalton 13th, and Cousins 12th, so they were pushing the ball down the field a little bit. Adjusted completion percentage, Wentz, bottom of the barrel, 25th. That's last. 19th for Dalton and 11th for Cousins, so there was some accuracy there, but this is where the film comes in, because if you watch that Falcons film, oof.
Dude, it was brutal.
Kirk was not giving his team a lot of chances. And in fact, I think his reactions to the misses were even more troublesome for me. The way he was just like, what do you mean you weren't there? Come on. Like every throw he was missing. And it's like, buddy, you're the one that's been out of the lineup. Like it's your job to get up to speed. I agree. It's very difficult. In terms of rating, Wentz was 22nd. Dalton was 20th. And Cousins was 16th. Total points. This is where it really rubber meets the road. Wentz scored 10, the Vikings with Wentz scored 10. The Panthers with Dalton scored 9. And the Falcons, who have previously been scoring fairly decently with Michael Penix, also scored 10. While all these teams made some decent plays, none of them, on balance, kept their team competitive. So your thoughts before I go into how I think we might solve this.
I mean, my thought is when you have a veteran quarterback who is older and slower and deteriorated, they used to play a lot of games. Now they don't play any. And, maybe they go a long stretch of time before seeing the field again. And when they get back on the field, they can't move as well as they used to. They can't throw as well as they used to. And they have to go from not playing to experiencing live bullets. And all of a sudden they have less bullets in their own gun. It can lead to like what we saw with Andy Dalton, where it's like you drop back 34 times. You had 4 turnover-worthy plays and 34 times. Like even by young Andy Dalton standards, that was horrific. And he just looked overwhelmed. He looked slow. He looked just completely overmatched, I guess is the best. He just looked like he didn't belong out there, right? And, Father Time is undefeated. It really is. And usually when you get beat by Father Time, it is very, very obvious. That was obvious to me. Like it's great career, played a long time, made a lot of money, helped the Bills end the drought. Andy Dalton, legend forever. It's time. And I would say the same thing for Wentz, mainly just like to protect Wentz from himself.
Right.
Like he can't keep getting hurt like this. Like he is going to be a mess when he's older because he's taken so many horrible injuries and he's tough as shit. He plays through them. He powers through them, but it's like, dude, for your sake, you need to stop. This is getting bad. And, Cousins, he also, similar to Dalton, he can't move anymore. Like he flat out can't move. And when he was in Minnesota, like with Kevin O'Connell, like they had the second most under center of any team in the league when he was there with Kevin. They had the most under center play action dropbacks with tons of boots out of any team in the league by like orders of magnitude. They were by far leaned into that more than anybody else because that's what Kirk did well. Like he would be under center, he would hit his landmarks, he would boot out, use that mobility. Not that he was ever crazy mobile, but like he was a good thrower on the move. He was excellent at doing all the under center, boot game stuff. He can't do that anymore. He can't move enough to do that anymore. And so you have the Falcons offense, which it feels like that just doesn't fit him anyway because like they just don't like going under center even with Cousins. Like they just don't like doing that. They don't like using play action even with Cousins. He only had one play action throw the entire day. So it's like, why is he there then if that's what he does well? Like he's got the 7th highest cap hit for any quarterback. And it's like, if this was your plan for him from the start, why is he there if you weren't planning on being a play action heavy offense anyway when he's on the field? So he's not a fit. He can't move. It doesn't look good for him. And he's another one of these guys where I'm like, man, just while you're healthy, it might be time to ride off into the sunset. You made a lot of money. You really did. Cousins' best job prospects now at this point are being a backup. It doesn't feel like he wants to be a backup. So just take your money and your health and go live is my advice to him. It doesn't feel like he can be a starter anymore. And unfortunately, a lot of pro athletes have trouble reckoning with that because it just happens all of a sudden, and they've never had time to process it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the opportunity cost of playing a guy like this is something that I don't think people recognize. They look at all the possible positives, the possible upsides, which are diminished with time, but they don't talk about what it takes out of an offense that they can't do in terms of mobility. In the terms of the Falcons offense, here's Bijan Robinson when being used correctly, who is a dark horse candidate for Offensive Player of the Year. Like, he's been really effective. He hasn't exploded yet, but his usage has been good, both in the run game and the pass game. All of a sudden, like, you're not getting a bunch of those touches because we've got to leave you in protection for Kirk, because if we don't, he's going to get obliterated, and then what? So not only is that Kirk can't do other parts of your offense just physically, you're taking one of your most effective pieces in Bijan and you have to run him out there as a protector, which is clearly not, I mean, he's capable, but you're limiting your offense, and that opportunity cost kind of goes under the radar, I think. So how do we get this all solved? And the first part is like, hey, you need those veteran voices to get starters prepared, especially when they're younger, to help them get up to speed. But they don't have to be on the roster. There is no cap on coaching positions. So create a coach position for veterans who want to step up and help young QBs with game prep. Think like Josh McCown, right? Just out of the league. You don't have to be, you can be the quarterback's coach, but you could be the assistant quarterback's coach. You can be whatever. You can be the game prep coach. You can be whatever you wanted to. You can create your own title. You can create your own salary. Make it an attractive position for somebody to come in.
Create your own salary.
For the
Where do I
coaches.
sign up?
Yeah, for the coaches, come on. You can't pay them like grad assistant level, because this guy, especially like your Cousins, like you said, he's made millions and tens of millions of dollars. Like, if he wants to still make some money, make it attractive, But if they really want to be there, they don't have to have a helmet on, and they might even be better if they don't, right? Now they don't have to worry about their own physical conditioning. Now they don't have to worry about playing politics for playing time or anything else. They're just there to support those guys and tell them, hey, this is how you get ready for this situation, or be a sounding board when they have questions. So that frees up a roster spot. It allows them to possibly even be more effective, the veteran quarterbacks, in that role. And as far as the other problem, the on-the-field problem, give younger backups a chance. It might give your team a couple of boosts in ways that we already talked about. More mobility. Typically, younger passers are more mobile. Not always, but generally so. And if you hit on somebody that can actually play, right, you're going to have basically the same amount of effectiveness in terms of wins. You're never counting on your backup to come in and win 100% of the games. But are they going to win as many as the veteran? If they're playing well, they probably do. And now, if you're fully invested in your young starter and they come back healthy, either as a really experienced backup now, or as a trade piece, right? If a guy comes out, lights it up, wins 3 games out of 4, and he's a free agent the next year, you can trade him, right? You can trade him before he hits free agency and say, hey, I've got a starter that's got reps under his belt. So right now, those guys are buried. They're third quarterbacks on depth charts. They're not getting a ton of live reps. Nobody ever really knows until each year in the preseason, and then everybody goes, well, it's preseason or joint practices, right? But those are very valuable reps because there's less live reps under, the rules of collective bargaining, and they just get very few chances to shine. Let them step up, because what we're getting from guys like Cousins and Dalton and Wentz to a point, can you do a lot worse? I don't know. And now some people kind of clap back at me and said, well, as long as there's Jake Brownings in the world, like the Joe Flaccos are going to have jobs. And I'm like, yep, that's true. And it is. Again, the caveat at the top, quarterback talent at the NFL level is hard to find. And I don't care if you're talking about starters, backups, young quarterbacks, old quarterbacks, just functional quarterback talent in the NFL is hard to find. It is a tough league to play in. And it is one of the toughest jobs in that league. So I'm not saying it's, a cure-all that's going to cure everything. But at this point, I think the sort of conventional wisdom about, oh, well, you absolutely need a guy who's, 8, 9, 10, 12 years in, or else you're sunk. I'm starting to see some cracks in that theory.
Well, speaking of veteran backups, Marcus Mariota is playing in the Monday night game right now, which it just started while we're recording this. And that game, I mean, you guys know this because you're in the future, but that game has started pick, turnover and downs, pick. So we were due for a Monday night slop fest, and apparently that's exactly what we're going to get. I guess we'll find out in the future who wins said slop fest. But in the meantime, want to thank all of you for watching and listening, however you happen to be watching and listening. Reminder, go to the Patreon, vote for Shot of the Week, and if you're so inclined, become a patron. You can get access to a bonus episode every single week. Want to thank our executive producers on the Patreon, Fitzy, Connor, Liam, Mike, Jack, Major, Owen, and Spencer. Appreciate you guys once again. And we'll be back in a couple days. I think we're going to do some mid-season awards, because that's just what you do when you run a football podcast. You get to week 8 and you do mid-season awards. So that's what we're doing. We'll see you in a couple days. And until then.